All right, I think we left off with story time and our badass of the week. I'm going to call him Talahi Kwole. Talahi Kwole. It takes a while for me to get used to these pronunciations. I'm just not used to these names. All right, Talahi Kwole was the chief of the Tlaxcalan tribe. The Aztecs came to attack them, and the Aztecs are badass, but the Tlaxcalan tribe are a bunch of badasses too. So it was an epic battle. Tlahuicole taught them not to give up and to fight to the death. Mostly, tribes would surrender to the Aztecs when all hope was lost, but the Tlaxcalan fought to the very last man, Tlahuicole. And the fight lasted 20 days when usually they lasted one or two. He made quite a name for himself. Oh, by the way, this right here is a quote from the website. So he made quite a name for himself as a head splitting ass kicker, fighting with a pair of massive tomahawks so heavy that many men could not even lift them. And even as the Tlaxcalan numbers began to dwindle, many Aztec warriors were so awed by Tlahuicole's physical powers of face crushing that they refused to engage him in single combat. The Tlaxcalan hero struck fear into the hearts of his enemies, cleaving through hordes of terrified warriors. But eventually, after all of his men were killed or mortally wounded, the mighty chieftain was overpowered by superior numbers and captured. They brought him before the Aztec leader. The Aztec leader was so impressed with Tlahuicole, he offered the chief his freedom if he joined the Aztecs. Tlahuicole thought that was the coward's way out and refused the offer, begging the Aztec ruler to sacrifice him for the disgrace of losing the battle against the Aztecs and dishonoring his own tribe. Tlahuicole was sacrificed through the stone of combat. He was stripped of his armor, given an ordinary obsidian war club, and chained to a circular stone. All right, here I'm going to quote again from the website. Surrounded by hardcore warriors wailing on him from every direction, Tlahuicole stood his ground like the neck ripping ass kicker that he was. Even though, over the course of nearly an hour of nonstop hand to hand horde mode combat, Tlahuicole fought his epic last stand, killing 8 of the Aztec Empire's most powerful and skilled Jaguar knights and wounding over 20 more. He finally fell on his knees, fighting like a madman before succumbing to a ridiculous number of seriously gnarly mortal wounds. As he lay there dying a painful death, an Aztec priest approached, exalted the name of the brave warrior, and ritualistically sacrificed him on the spot. I told you this story to show you. I think before this story, I was talking about how I need it quiet, please. Shh, need quiet. Before telling you the story, I told you about how they would take warriors from other tribes and chain them to a stone and then sacrifice them through the combat where they would give them feather armor and feather weapons. So here is an example of just that. All right, they chained him to the stone and attacked him, but this time he was too much of a badass for them. All right, moving on. Still talking about human sacrifices. So, different gods required different types of sacrifices. Different situations called for different types of sacrifices. So, if you're having a drought, you would pray to one god. If you're having a flood, you would pray to a different god. Tlaloc was the rain goddess, and she required the sacrifice of children. And the reason why she liked the sacrifice of children is they would often cry while being sacrificed, and those tears would help make it rain. Tochi was the mother goddess, and she required female sacrifices. Human sacrifices increased radically in the Reign of Terror, designed to keep inhabitants under control. They needed lots of sacrifice, and these were called the Flowery Wars. The purpose of the Flowery Wars was to get humans to sacrifice. Instead of sacrificing your own people, you go out and capture others from other tribes and sacrifice them. And they were fighting, they were like starting wars, and they were fighting not to kill, but to capture. All right, so this is how a sacrifice, a typical sacrifice would go. The victims would be ritualistically prepared for sacrifice, and they would be waiting at the bottom of the stairs. And then citizens could walk up to fellow citizens to be sacrificed and ask them to take messages to the gods. And so then they would say, yeah, sure, I can do that. All right. Often these people would be warriors that were captured in battle. I do want you to know that they sacrificed their own citizens as well as enemy warriors. All right, so the willing sacrificial victim would go up. Lots of victims were happy to be sacrificed. Being sacrificed brings great honor to you and your family. Your family will be able to move up social ranks because of your sacrifice. And there is honor in being sacrificed. It is how it is, and it has always been this way. But there is little honor in being sacrificed for the other side's gods. So if you are captured and taken to be sacrificed for somebody else's god, there is no honor in that. But being sacrificed is just the nature of life. That's just how things are. Now, suppose you don't want to be sacrificed, all right, and you throw a fit on your way up the stairs to be sacrificed. That is a huge dishonor. And not being sacrificed is worse than being sacrificed by your enemy. There's a story that some Spanish conquistadors freed some sacrificial victims, and they refused to be free. They became indignant and they demanded to be sacrificed. So fleeing is cowardly, and it lands you and your family in infamy. So as the person is walking up the stairs, dead bodies and blood is flowing down the stairs. And as he is walking up, he can look down and see the crowd of people, and they're all singing ritualistic songs based on the ceremony. Also, I want you to notice, do you notice all that red that is around? All right, all that red is blood. All the people down there are committing auto-sacrifice. So they are singing and piercing their ears, piercing their tongues, and letting out blood. So when you get to the top, you get onto the table. The priest will hold you down, and one priest will rip out your heart. He'll slit into your chest, reach in, elbow deep, feel around, grab your heart, and rip it out. And then they throw the body down the stairs as more people go up the stairs. So let's see. All right. When the conquistadors were watching this happen, they were appalled by the number of human sacrifices. Like I said before, cultures all over the world did human sacrifice, but the Aztecs did it on an industrial scale. So there was one particular ceremony in 1487 where they had completed the construction of the Templo Mayor, and they had a huge ceremony. It was a giant ceremony with 4 sacrificial altars. The Spanish estimated 80,000 victims. But when you do the math, that's 3.5 victims per altar per minute for 96 hours straight. That is logistically impossible. The actual number was more like 4,000 to 20,000, which is still a huge number of people that were sacrificed. They said that the smell of blood was so strong in the city, it was unendurable to habitants. So, and then estimates say that 20,000 sacrifices per year were made for the Aztecs. All right, I'm going to play this 1 minute video of the skull rack.
Researchers have uncovered a vast collection of human skulls beneath modern Mexico City, in an area that was once the epicenter of the Aztec Empire. In 2015, the team discovered and began excavating the remains of the Tzonpatli, an enormous rack of skulls in front of the Templo Mayor, which is flanked by two towers of skull and mortar. Both are believed to be part of human sacrifice rituals. After taking out the tribute's beating heart, priests decapitate the body, reduce it to a skull, and carve holes into the side to mount the skulls on wooden poles. 75% of the skulls found at the site belong to warriors, men aged 20 to 35, but 20% were found to be from women and 5% were of children.
All right. So the more you know. I'm going to skip past these two videos and is that funny? I shouldn't joke about this stuff. It's just the look on his face like, what? All right. Now, I told you guys that the reason why they do so many sacrificing is so that the gods need blood to keep the sun lit, to keep the sun going around, and to keep the sun from being conquered by the moon. So that's why you can understand this meme. All right. I've got another story time for you. And this time I'm gonna introduce you to Coatlicue. I don't know if that's the correct pronunciation. That's what I'm gonna call her. Coatlicue. She is the mother goddess. She gave birth to all the other gods and goddesses. So one day she was sweeping in the temple, and a ball of feathers visits her, and instantly she becomes pregnant. Her children are embarrassed. She has 400 children, and the children are so embarrassed that she has become pregnant and she doesn't know who the father is. These 400 children, by the way, are the 400 stars from the south. All right, so the leader of all the children is Kalyashalki. And she is very angry and she whips all of her brothers and sisters into a frenzy. Basically they create this mob that goes and they are going to revolt against their mother, and they intend to kill their mother under Kalyashaki's encouragement. So Kalyashaki goes to Coatlicue. She does kill her mother and cuts off her head, and instantly her son comes out fully grown, fully armored, and ready to do battle. Huitzilopochtli, we've seen him before. He is the god of the sun. So the instant she was killed, the god Huitzilopochtli suddenly emerged from her womb, fully grown, fully armed for battle. He is the god of war, the god of the sun, the god of human sacrifice, the patron god of Tenochtitlan, and he has an epic battle with his brothers and sisters and basically kicks all their asses and they run away. He takes his sister's head, he decapitates his sister, Kalyashalki, and tosses the head into the sky, thus creating the moon. All right, your science teachers are going to try to tell you that the moon was created in the formation of the galaxy, and you can tell your science teacher that that is a filthy lie. All right, and so eternally, the moon is chasing the sun, and the moon, she hates her brother, Huitzilopochtli, and she wants to kill her brother. So that's why we give blood to we sacrifice our blood so that he can survive another night of being chased by his sister, that he can have strength to battle her and win. So every morning when the sun comes up and rises, that means that she has not won, that he has won. All right, so I told you the story because at the base of Templo Mayor, there is this disc at the bottom, at the stairs. And this is the disc. I put this picture in to give you a sense of how large this disc is. And in Texas, we call that a biggin. It was discovered in 1978. On the bottom of the stairs of the temple of Huitzilopochtli. So the sacrifice happens at the top of the stairs. The bodies are thrown down the stairs and it lands on this stone. Here is the stone. What kind of sculpture is that? That is right. It's relief sculpture. Is it high relief or low relief? Yeah, it's high. There's deep undercuts. All right. Now, is it difficult to tell what this is a sculpture of? Yes. It helps if we add color to it. Is it easier now to tell what this is a sculpture of? So this is Calushalki, and she's been decapitated. Her arms have been cut off. Her legs have been cut off. The broken body refers to the phases of the moon. And in one site where I was researching, somebody described it as marvelously composed. I agree with that. They filled up the space nicely. And if you look at like the leg right here, it guides the eye, and this guides it. The whole thing guides the eye and in a circular motion. And it does make for a nice tattoo. All right. Along with that story was Coatlicue. This is a freestanding sculpture, and this is the Earth Mother. She is the mother of Huitzilopochtli and Coyolxauhqui. One quote that I read described this as a massive apparition of dread carved in stone. All right, is it easy to tell what this is a sculpture of? No, it's difficult. So let's add some color to it, all right? That helps a lot, doesn't it? So when her head was cut off, two snakes grew out of her head, and then they faced each other. So what we have up at the top, that is two snake heads facing each other, and then as they face each other, we see one snake face, all right? But it's two heads facing each other. Then she is wearing a necklace made of hands, severed hearts, with a skull in the middle of it. She is wearing a skirt made of snakes. And then down her feet are giant snakes. And then she has a big snake coming down in between the legs. If you look off to the side, you can see her arms. So her arms are in praying mantis style. This was discovered in 1790, and they reburied it because it was too scary.
Is that like a genuine fact, or is that something you were saying?
Say that louder.
Is that like a genuine fact, or is that?
That's that. If when I researched this was, and I think in 1790, they would have thought that this was the work of the devil or something of that nature. And this thing is absolutely massive. Okay, so the serpent that emerges between her legs, that is symbolic of the menstrual cycle and also a male member. Many Aztec deities have masculine and feminine traits. All right, so then we get to the fall of the Aztecs. Like I said, the conquistadors, the Spanish, did not have any trouble at all finding people willing to help them take the Aztecs down because everybody hated the Aztecs because they were so cruel. And Aztecs made lots of art. They conscripted artists from the cultures that they conquered. And much of Aztec art did not survive the Spanish conquest. Gold objects were taken to Spain and melted down. Zealous friars destroyed quote unquote idols and codices. We talked about that. And perishable materials like wood and textiles have disappeared over the years. The conquerors marveled at the beauty of the land, but they were horrified by the bloody cults and sacrifices. In fact, um, most of Tenochtitlan was it was drained and it was razed to the ground. Like all the Templo Mayor, they brought it all the way down to the ground. That means they had to dismantle it, and all those building blocks, all the stones were used for other buildings for the conquistadors and for the Spanish. But the Europeans were so horrified by what they saw there, they pretty much eradicated the culture. Anyways, this is the end of it's the end of chapter 35. It is also the last lecture of the semester. All right, so that takes us to the end of art history 1303. We are going to do a review for the final exam tomorrow. Let's see, tomorrow is Tuesday. Wednesday, we will take part 1 of the test. It's 25 questions, multiple choice. And we'll go over the review Tuesday. Thursday, I'm going to be absent. So Friday, you will take the test, parts 2 and 3. So you'll do the slide identification and the 2 unknowns. And that'll finish us for the semester on the college side. Then next week, we will do our art project, and that will be our final exam for the high school side. All right, we will be working with clay, so just be prepared for that. All right, any questions?
There's more slide IDs than usual from this test. There's less multiple choice.
There are less slide IDs. So there are 10. The review is already in Schoology. There are 10 slides. All right. And because when I made the test, I'll have to look at the test. I'll have to look at the test because all 10 cultures are on the test. I know that. So know every single slide, at least their culture. And you need to memorize it anyway because of the slide ID. But for the first part of the test, know every picture in the culture. For part 2, the slide ID, know all the titles, the dates, and the cultures. All right. Any other questions about anything? Yes.
I started studying for the exam for the test.